For almost as long as I can recall, I have been a fan of the NBA. The thrill of watching LeBron James completely dominate the court, Steph Curry pulling off some of the most impossible three-point shots ever, and the crowd going wild over spectacular dunks that defy logic. All of these are exactly why I love basketball more than just a sport. However, something seems off lately. This NBA league I have loved for so long today seems to be losing its value under the famous spotlight. And I don't feel alone about it. Its viewership is down, its ratings are tanking, and the league is losing its tinsel in what has become an increasingly changing entertainment world. So, what gives? What is dying in the NBA? Let's break it down. The NBA has always been known for being fast-paced, high energy, and clearly an emotional sport. The NBA thrives on its drama, intensity, and genuine emotional effect. That's how the game relies on drawing attention, whether by a dunk, an incredible buzzer beater, or a heated rivalry at its peak. However, this kind of excitement is slowly being killed off with the increasing influence of referees and their quick whistles, as if every little movement, every bit of frustration, and every sign of emotion is being met with a technical foul, or worse, an ejection. The game is slowly losing its edge because players now seem afraid to express themselves freely. As one might expect from such an irritating trend, Giannis Antetokounmpo, one of the best players in the league, received a technical foul for looking at another player after a dunk. Giannis, whose fierce passion and competitive spirit are well known for, got penalized for what many would consider a perfectly natural display of emotion. That's not all, though. Nikola Jokic, reigning MVP, is now also out of a contest for something pretty minor. Just for something so insignificant, a player like Jokic shouldn't be punished. But apparently the referees are more interested in policing emotions than affording the players their chance to express themselves in the spirit of the moment. This is all that the growing tendency of officiating has for annoyances. The fans, who have been the life of the sport. It is the unscripted, raw drama between two teams that makes the NBA attractive, winning players red-eyed through their fierce, competitive spirit, shoving every limit of physical and mental endurance. Yet, due to excessive intervention, the referees become robotic, and all this wonderful feeling evaporates. No fan wants to witness a game choke full of penalties, engulfed in emotions, but one played at the highest level. They should allow more freedom to the players to entertain the audience with their personalities and unfiltered energy if they want to maintain the spice in the league. It is the drama and intensity that makes the people want to come back for more. Sports have their lifeblood in rivalries. It is that which converts a match into what feels like a battle, a war on a team-to-team or individual basis, generally between players that hate each other. Anger, emotion, trash talk, everything adding up to one of the biggest moments in sports history. In the NBA, rivalries have been the foundations of drama. The intense fighting between Celtics and Lakers, the bitter rivalry between Michael Jordan and the Detroit Pistons, such were storylines that would draw fans to keep watching night after night just to find out what came next in the saga. But the years have passed since then, and the decay in the luster of rivalries in the association was replaced with a more polished and commercial sort of game. At one point, LeBron James had played for 3 different teams in his career. He left Miami to go to Cleveland, then Los Angeles, never really being there long enough to build an enmity worth calling a rivalry. It was the same with Kevin Durant. It's just what he does. Seemingly from Oklahoma City to Golden State, then Brooklyn, hardly having a rivalry's lifespan to bequeath. Moreover, the player hardly got hated when he was always roaming around and outside. There's room for rivalries to grow and thrive, where there's no long-term animosity. And when young players like Jalen and Cade try to ignite a bit of locker room energy, the league quickly steps in by issuing a technical foul. A perfect example is when these two players, while BXRing each other on the floor, were trading some trash talk and getting into each other's heads, but instead of allowing it to brew and add to the plot twist, there you have it. Intervention by the officials. The NBA really seems to play the safe game of keeping over-the-top antics and rivalries bottled up among their very own. Instead of letting their players play and develop rivalries that the fans crave, they just want to inhibit emotions. It is the stuff opposite in other sports, including the UFC, where the athlete thrives and grows rivalry drama. Heated rivalries sell out the arenas, add millions to pay-per-view revenue, and within the NBA, it is recently that we've been hearing officiating that is concerned more about policing emotions than establishing the kind of competitive intensity that made the game so interesting. The clamps tightening over any sign of aggression, be it physical or verbal, is making the sport look sanitized and sterile, much less exciting. Fans, on the other hand, are yearning for the kind of drama that used to define the NBA. And that's why rivalries make sports interesting in the very end. More so, they add commonplaceness to games, and no more. Players lose every bit of relatability if it is just another game. If there is no emotional connection to the opponent, the game goes flat. Passion rivalries are what the NBA needs to start embracing. Otherwise, it turns into becoming a league devoid of the excitement that made it great, in all probability, in the first place. I mean, for the ultimate NBA fan like me, trying to watch a game has become a chore. I mean, in this day and age, with technology bringing everything under its purview, you would think that it would be easy to enjoy the sport you've always loved, but in fact, it proves otherwise because the NBA is making it harder now than ever. The app called League Pass is a complete jumble, buffering or freezing constantly, and it is impossible to navigate. There is a payment done for the service, yet a fan cannot enjoy all of her or his favorite team's home games because of the blackouts. It's like the NBA is making sure the fans have trouble factually enjoying it. And don't even let me start about finding a game to watch. Sometimes it's TNT, then it could be ESPN, or even on some odd channel that you've never heard of. You can just put your brain in gear to know where I'm supposed to find it, only to find out you've just made it to the end of the first quarter because you couldn't find it in time. Not only is that nasty for loyal fans, but also sounds bad for a potential new viewer who isn't probably going to waste the time trying to figure out how to catch a game when he or she can listlessly scroll on Netflix or YouTube. In an age where everything is a few taps away on our cell phones or streaming services, the NBA is archaically stuck in broadcast methods that do not serve it well. Netflix, YouTube, and TikTok all do that, providing content on demand with no blackout codes or strange fees. Going into such a seriously competitive entertainment environment, the NBA's very difficult and inconsistent options in broadcasting have really not done it any justice. It would frankly be easier to just find something else to watch at this point. The league considered a different way to broadcast and make it simpler for fans to tune in, wherever they are, with what team they follow. Otherwise, they will lose even more of their audience to other, more accessible entertainments. It is sad to see some of the most talented basketball players becoming obsessed with activities outside the court rather than what they do on it. This season, Paul George has launched more episodes of his podcast than games he has played. Such is the power of the podcast that when it goes on for too long and outweighs the court, one's commitment to doing so means something is amiss. One must see that some athletes' interests in building their personal brands are more important than their interests in grabbing trophies. And this shift can condemn those to bad league production. The absence of discipline and focus has been called on Zion Williamson, who is arguably the most hyped young star in basketball in the last few years. Instead of showcasing what he can do in the best basketball arena, Zion, portfolio somewhat, took the action away from him and focused on forging his powers with food and weight management rather than golf performance. One of the brightest prospects to come along in many years, Zion's potential is enormous. But when he appears to be more interested in off-court activities than getting his body into peak condition or leading his team, fans start to wonder about his commitment to the game. Not that I am saying all players are like that. Many stars in the league, like LeBron James and Stephen Curry, who have still been able to do great feats, phenomenal acts, and inspirations on and off the court. But this made it hard for fans to stay invested, since whenever the stars seem disengaged or distracted, it defeats the purpose of their existence and essence in this entire business. Basketball is, after all, a star power league, and when such stars lose focus, it does generally show in the ultimate excitement surrounding the whole sport. Fans want to see favorites rise to the occasion, struggle for something more than themselves to win, and ultimately give and/or leave it all on the court. The moment a player starts prioritizing side projects or personal branding instead of winning, he simply sends a negative message to the fans as well as fellow players. The NBA does not need part-time players, but wants players who are totally committed to the game and not just to the paychecks or to their next business deal. Without such dedication, the league could lose its very heart and soul that once made it so beautiful. The NBA's position about political matters also appears debatable. Like when players spoke for or against the league about social justice, the whole thing has involved deep division. The last few years saw the NBA firmly pronounced against racial inequalities, or police brutality, or any social justice movement-aligned issues. These causes are for sure important, but the problem comes when the NBA parties with one side of the political divide and drives away some fans who may not share those views. Indeed, the NBA is a global brand. Fans are from all over the globe, and the moment it delves into political waters, it risks losing some of its viewers-turned-listeners because they feel excluded or alienated. Disparate political affiliations laden the fans with feelings of estrangement when viewing the league's priorities concerning ideologies. In a world where sports are often regarded as an escape route into the right track, fans do not want to be reminded of politics when it comes to watching a game. It is not about the players not speaking from their public forum on issues that matter. Far from it. A lot of NBA players do amazing work off the court to improve their communities. Yet, the NBA has expressed its handling of political issues to create a gap that many fans feel separate from the league they once loved. It's a delicate balance, and although it is critical to stand up for what is right, the NBA needs to find a way to do it without alienating half of its audience. Without this, the NBA is headed more and more toward being considered a political platform than a basketball league. T was the three-point shot that stirred the game in the good old days, all but made it an exciting and revealing deviation. One that Stephen Curry revolutionized when he came into his own and started shooting long-range bombs with nothing less than ease. It stretched defense, shooting the ladders of producing anywhere threes, and thereby revolutionizing the way the game was played altogether. But now, the three-pointer is almost orthodox in that teams appeal mainly to it as the outright game weaponry. The attention is then on maximizing efficiency, and the game has become more numbers-oriented than creative or athletic. What was once a hallowed weapon has now become as dull a copy in the arsenal of every offense on the pitch. Watching a game where all shots are stuck of the three-point variety can begin to feel a bit stale. The speed of fast breaks or the beauty of a high-flying dunk has now been replaced by endless perimeter passing and catch-and-shoot attempts. Perhaps the most interesting shots of the game can be in euphoria of daring and falling three-pointers, but they have tamed what the sport can offer ruger dynamicity. Play has declined in variety, which made the game so appealing. Most teams now play with the same formula. The ball could really be moving in spots, inside scoring, mid-range jumpers, and the fast break kind, before transforming into a game in which the fans yearn for the old style. The NBA really needs to balance the three-point revolution with some semblance of the muscularity and excitement that originally went into making the sport so lovely. They continue to take charge with the basket attacks, LeBron James and Giannis Antetokounmpo, but that kind of action would have to be revived at the game. Without that balance between shooting and athletics, the game promises to lose out on excitements and varieties enjoyed in the bygone days. It completely sucks to be an NBA fan at this moment. Once beautiful, the game seems to have lost its aesthetic. Enjoyable as it still may be, it has been different from what it was. Sweetened officiating, null rivalries, unhappy fan experiences, hollowed athletes, disenfranchising politics, and deep reliance on the arc make for a perfect metaphorical storm for the league. Never say never to complete disbarring myself from watching, though. After all, the NBA would still be my most long-standing sport. I'd keep championing it in the hopes that the league will ever come back to what made it great in the very first place. Maybe, just maybe, things will turn around. Until that time, I'm forced to see how things pan out because, whether I loathe it to death or not, I could never quit this league.